Inspiration is such a beautiful word. In recent years, it has been so misused that now it's often a euphemism for stealing content or designs. It is common and normal to get inspired. Brands big and small gather inspiration. Reality shows like Project Runway use the term a lot. Independent artists get inspired on Pinterest or go shopping to study current trends. And this list goes on. By inspiration here, we often mean taking photos, putting together mood boards and/or color palettes. But where does inspiration stop and plagiarism begin? And how can you make sure as a surface pattern designer or artist that you are not stealing other people's designs? Hi textile buddies, I'm Daria, surface pattern and textile designer and artist, both traditional and digital. On this channel we talk all things textile, pattern, color and artwork. Patterns are everywhere, as you know, my textile buddies. Today we have an important topic that was inspired by a question on YouTube. Hey, can you please make a video on the process of how to derive motifs from an inspiration? I don't want to copy motifs from Pinterest, so what process to use? I realized that it's a very important thing to discuss, so let's do this. If you are not subscribed, please do so now. I noticed that many people who watch my videos aren't subscribed, so please understand that it's very important and hit that subscribe button. It helps with the channel a lot. I put a lot of effort in making original content for you guys. I don't copy other creators' work, and today we will talk quite a lot about originality. So how can you create original artwork without copying things from Pinterest and doing copyright infringement? Disclaimer, I am not a lawyer. I am not giving any legal advice here. This video is an attempt to look at an extremely complicated topic. But if you are an artist, sooner or later you will encounter copyright questions, and I'll do my best to share my 8 years of experience as a professional surface pattern designer, former in-house product development designer, freelance artist and watercolor painter. I've gathered this information bit by bit by interacting with other creators and professionals online and in person over the years. When I was in college for textiles, we were taught about copyright and told that a new design has to be at least 10% different from the original inspiration in order not to tread the infringement territory. But how do you measure that? How can you single out 10% color or composition difference? How can you make sure it's not 9% or 8%, right? Even big names copy each other's designs. Big brands do that. They don't yell about it, but it definitely happens on a regular basis behind closed doors. If you're working as an in-house print designer, you can get asked to copy a design from a different company. Of course, it has to be modified in some way and not directly reproduced, because nobody wants copyright infringement notices. Sometimes the case can get really big and no brand wants to get involved in a lawsuit and pay huge amounts in settlement and also tarnish their reputation. Plagiarism is very common in fashion industry, not just in terms of print, but silhouette, for example. A simple rule of thumb to tell if a design has been plagiarized is by placing the original and the new design side by side. Just recently, I was traveling to Vermont, one of the United States northern states, for a painting workshop. I was driving by in Manchester, Vermont, beautiful city in the mountains, and I saw a Marimekko outlet. I was like, whoa, this is destiny. Marimekko is a Finnish European brand famous for their bold minimalist prints, crazy colors and everything like that. And it turned out I stopped by, of course, how could I miss that? The associate was very friendly. I said, hey, I'm a textile designer, I'm so excited. And she told me there are actually just 2 stores in the United States by this brand. One is in New York City, the other one was there in Vermont, and it was an outlet as well. So I was so inspired, you know, I bought a little cosmetic case, actually. It's right here. So I bought this. You know, they're kind of pricey, all the things there. They're actually kind of expensive. But I was like, I gotta have something from Marimekko. I also ordered a vintage scarf on eBay, and it came from Lithuania, all across the ocean. So I got really inspired by the brand, and I decided to read more about it. Actually, also made a reel on Instagram. You can take a look about visiting that shop. So I started reading about the brand, and this article popped up about you know how you Google something and it says people are also searching for, and it said, what is Marimekko controversy? I was like, controversy? I want to know that. So it turns out that there was this big case. Actually, there were several, I think, where Marimekko admitted that they had copied someone else's designs. I found an article in Finnish, translated it with Google Translate, did my best, you know. So it said that, you know, an art director admitted that the director, you know, the art director, in collaboration with a famous artist, they had copied a Ukrainian artist's design. I think it was in early 2000s, maybe 90s, I'm not so sure. The brand has a long history, but I was like, wow, I didn't expect that from Marimekko, you know. So I'll show you these two designs. So when you put these two designs side by side, it's absolutely clear that one stems from the other. They are not different enough. There's no 10% difference for sure. The color is very similar, the layout, the little dashes texture, and so on. I think that it's very interesting that in this case, the art director admitted that she had approved of the artist copying the design. At least she didn't throw the artist under the bus. Compared to this other case, when I was researching this video, you know, I was looking for examples of copyright infringement, and I found this article on Diet Prada. This is an Instagram account that writes about pop culture news, often something controversial, often about fashion. So there was this article where an influencer said, oh, these shorts my brand developed, they are vintage, they are so gorgeous, blah blah blah. And then a small brand from Australia said, hey, this is actually our design, and they showed receipts that influencer had bought those shorts from them. And the influencer said, oh, I'm so sorry, it was my team bought the shorts and they didn't tell me. So she basically threw her team under the bus. I'm going to show you some images of a vector studio based in Russia. Russian is my native language, so I do read a lot of Russian speaking resources and know a lot of great artists and designers from all the Russian speaking countries, Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, Kazakhstan, and more. I also have my own story about copyright infringement where I was the offender. I will tell it in the end. Make sure you watch the entire video. So I wanted to show you guys this blog post by Alexandra Sabelskaya, who is the owner of a stock studio. So essentially this blog post is about Shutterstock and the way she was banned on it. So a stock studio is when, you know, several artists work together and they actually just make a company. So you can be an individual contributor on Shutterstock, but you can work for a vector studio. So it's in Russian, obviously, and I will try my best to translate, you know, what is going on here, and I will include a link so you can read if you're interested in Russian, if anybody speaks Russian. She says that this is the original artwork by a contributor who complained about their vector studio, that they had copied his or her or their image, right? So this is the original and this is the copy, and it's kind of different enough, right? The color is different, the scale is different, the layout is a little bit different. There are some similarities, right? She said, yes, I studied it and admitted I can see the inspiration, and you know, the contributor is really popular too. They're really big. She also said they had reference photos. See, they actually took photos of ribbons for the author to use. They actually took photos of these ribbons for the artist to draw the vector illustrations. So she's like, okay, I get it. Maybe we, you know, made a mistake and it was copyright infringement, but she decided to reach out because her team, her studio, created this artwork. And sometime later she found this artwork by someone else, and she's like, she overlapped them and sent it to Shutterstock, you know, customer service, and they said this is not infringement, right? So how confusing is all this? You can get banned for different reasons. So like I said, this is very fluctuating, and where exactly is that 10% difference, right? Now, how can you make sure you don't break copyright rules while getting inspired by other people's content? It might be pretty obvious, but I will say it nevertheless. Don't take other people's images and use them as yours. You cannot download pictures from Pinterest. They are not free. They have owners and belong to other artists, designers, photographers, bloggers, and so on. If it has a logo on it, don't touch it. But even if it doesn't, just don't touch it. If you didn't create the pattern, don't use it. You can buy the fabric with the pattern and use it, that's different. You can sew and sell things with the fabric, that's normal. But you cannot resell the pattern design or products made with it if you didn't make the design and purchase a license. Number 2 point is, don't trace other people's images in Illustrator, Photoshop, Procreate, and other programs. If you need to trace something, if you cannot draw, for example, take your own photos, for example, of flowers. But I encourage you to practice drawing. Don't start with very complicated subjects such as realistic buildings or people. Number 3, be cautious of using other people's photos, especially professional photographers, including book or magazine covers. I know sometimes it's so tempting to use these photos because you couldn't physically be somewhere else on a different continent. I think it's kind of okay to use these photos for pattern design because you are switching to a different art form, so to say. But in this case, make sure you stylize the design and only use it as a reference. For example, if you're using bird photos, just use it as a reference for bird anatomy, for example. I will talk about this point a little bit more in a minute as well, for cases other than repeating patterns, because we make different kinds of art, right? Number 4, combine and alter references. Don't copy other people's designs just as you see them. You'll be in trouble. Make alterations, change up the color. Let me show you an example of my design that I recently created. So I was recently working on a Procreate design that actually placed quite high in Spoonflower. It was an experiment, I already mentioned it. I tried to observe, why certain designs win, and I tried to include those points, in my design, and I placed 52nd. It's the highest that's been for me in a while. So, and this was my working process here. I have some reference photos, as you see. I unfortunately already moved the working files from my pad, but these are my reference photos, and I will include the final design somewhere here. So see, I pulled some patterns, but obviously I didn't trace anything. I liked, the trees here. I liked the idea of a river, so I also did a river in my design. I liked the colors in these two designs, so I included some, soft reds and pops of pink. I apologize if these belong to some of you guys, but we all use reference photos, and you can see in my final design that I did not copy anything. I also had some photorealistic, I was going to say, so actual photos of peacocks, because I needed to see, the anatomy of a peacock. Several angles, right? Front view, side view. There's also a rose arch, and you can see it in my design, and obviously a horse because I needed to have a reference. So see, I combined all of these. I borrowed some things, I didn't even touch some other things, and a completely new design was born. So this is, may I have the audacity to say, this is the way to work. Number 5, instead of tracing, draw from observation. Look at the reference photo and replicate what you see with slight changes. I can almost guarantee you, if you're using this old school method, your new design will look different enough, because it's very hard to copy exactly, and that's great because we don't need an exact copy. Number 6, learn to simplify and stylize. No need to draw every single hair on a dog's face. It's especially easier to draw children's designs for this reason, because they can have, you know, cute faces, simple faces. Even other categories like flowers don't have to be super detailed and complicated, and I will include some simple designs of mine to show you the difference. You can see they are not anatomically correct, you know, super scientific studies of animals. They are just cute, simplified, stylized designs. Number 7, lose the reference altogether. If you know how to draw, don't even look at a reference. For example, I see a pattern with oranges on a pink background. I don't need to sit and look and copy the oranges. I will sit down, draw oranges with markers, and then in Photoshop or Illustrator, I will put them on a pink background. So in this case, I just borrowed an idea. Number 8, if you are inspired by a pattern specifically, change the layout. For example, if the original design is a busy overlapping pattern, turn it into a half drop or maybe a spaced out repeat, or vice versa. Take some elements out or add some elements that are not currently present in the design. For example, here we have, you know, flowers and oranges, and you can't see them, but there are actually lemons there. So if you are inspired by this design, maybe lose the oranges, right? Include, I don't know, include what? Maybe more flowers of a different kind, or include, I don't know, lemon blossoms, right? This one, let me see. I think it does actually have some lemon blossoms, I forgot. This design was actually also inspired by, I saw the design in a catalog, a fashion catalog. It was in a similar color palette. It also had lemons and oranges. But I like this like Sicilian feel, the Italian summer feel. And this was for a design challenge. I forget which one because I'm old. So this original, you know, drawing was done in a brown marker. I will include it somewhere here. And I made it as a monochrome design. But also when this challenge came up, I was like, you know, I saw that photo from a fashion catalog, and I was like, I will just add lemons and oranges that I also had drawn previously. So that's another way to do it, right? You combine, you pull from different designs, from your own designs, of course. You change the colors completely. You add something that is not there, and here you go. In the end, making artwork is very analytical, and it's about learning the building blocks that you have as a designer: color, layout, scale, space, and others, and how you can use your building blocks. Number 9, let's talk about paying homage or homage, the way you prefer to pronounce this word. So, you know, sometimes people post something, tag you, and say, you know, they copy your design and they say, this was inspired by you. Does this free them from copyright infringement? Nope. It's better than blatantly stealing designs, actually, but all the rules still apply. The designs should still look different enough when they are put side by side in contour, color, texture, and composition. They should also not be in direct competition to the original, so it's kinda okay to create cake or nail decorations from a fabric design, which is, you know, open to discussions, questionably okay, right? But making another fabric design is completely not cool and unacceptable. It's also cool to pay homage to William Morris, the great designer, right? Who is already dead and who was also a socialist who didn't protect his designs by copyright. He's already so famous worldwide. So copying William Morris and copying a spoonflower designer are two completely different things. So please don't sugarcoat stealing. Just don't steal. Number 10, let's talk more about painting or illustration references, not patterns. For example, you really like a landscape photo and want to paint it, or you saw a cute photo in a magazine and you want to make an illustration out of it. For example, see, I have this gorgeous book with this beautiful painting, and what I would previously do when I was just starting out, I would just sit down and paint it exactly the way I see it. Is it okay? No, unfortunately not, and unfortunately I didn't know it at first. Try not to use other people's photos, especially professional photographers. So this You probably can't see, but this says photographs by Clive Nichols. He's a famous photographer. He has a huge Instagram following, so I don't think he would like it if I copied any of his photographs, but maybe he's already that big, like William Morris. Maybe this guy wouldn't mind, you know, he wouldn't care. But I'll tell you a little bit later in a second how to do it. You can still use this as a reference, but I'll tell you what to do. I was also going to show you something, this watercolor sketching book by Brenda Swenson, an artist who got a scam message. So she says, you know, you can combine reference photos like this. See, these are the original photos, like a separate garden with flowers, separate building, separate trees, and that's the way she painted it. Let me find it. Give me one sec. Here is the final painting, right? Everything is together in one frame. So that's a great way to do it, you know, to combine different photos, even if you are using a book like this. So switch it up, maybe bring tall trees here, you know, take the, like, change the color of the sky, and then you will be safe. So like I said, be very careful with professional photographers. The thing is, first of all, a photographer is also an artist, and it takes great skill to take and edit a striking photo. Sometimes they wait for hours on end to catch the right light, or spot an animal in the wild, or a bird somewhere, you know, under the rain on a mountain. And secondly, photographers often end up selling art prints of their works, so you don't want to compete with them. They wouldn't like that. Alternatively, you can try reaching out to the photographer and ask permission to use their photo as a reference, but be prepared that they could say no, and that's okay. Don't think that photographers are thrilled that you will paint their work. They probably won't. So I think about 5 or 6 years ago, I saw this gorgeous autumnal photo, you know, in New England, somewhere here around Boston, with rows of hay. It was so beautiful, and I painted it, and I was like, you know, I tagged the photographer, and I thought he would be thrilled, you know, that I used his photo. He ignored me, you know, maybe he just didn't see it, maybe he didn't like it. But after that, I actually started thinking like, hey, maybe what I'm doing is not okay. So what I did, I got on a forum for photographers, and I read, you know, I love doing this thing because you read different perspectives. You read what, you know, artists think, and you read what photographers think about it. And many photographers were saying that, you know, artists feel entitled to use their photography and, you know, do oil paintings and then sell them like their own work. But this is not quite right for the reasons that I have just mentioned, that, you know, not everybody can take a great photo, and sometimes they travel far to a location, they have to endure the weather and stuff. So please be respectful of photographers' work as well. But I have good news for you. There are Facebook groups where people voluntarily share their photography for these purposes. I will include some maybe photos or links to Facebook groups where people share their photography, and there are lots of gorgeous subjects and landscapes and everything, and birds and animals, and people are actually happy for you to use those photos. The only thing they ask is, you know, when you're done painting, just post it in the group and tag the person whose photo you have used. But you are then free to, you know, sell those paintings, sell the art prints, and so on and so forth. So one of the things that people offered in the forum was, sometimes it's acceptable, you know, to reach out to a photographer and say, hey, I really want to paint this photo of yours. Do you mind if I paint it? And when I'm done, I will give you a free art print of it. And many people agreed that, you know, it was a good idea, like it's acceptable, it's something, you don't feel like it's, you know, stolen and so on and so forth. But, you know, as an introvert, I don't really like reaching out to people that much. It actually happened to me quite recently, just last week. I went plein air painting by myself. I decided to get out more and paint. I used to go with groups all the time, but after my most recent painting trip, I was like, I don't really need a group. I just need to go and paint myself. You know, I don't even need that much teaching anymore because I have the basics, you know. So I went here in one of the local towns. There was this beautiful small flower farm with pumpkins in front of their, you know, door. And I asked the lady, can I paint here? And she said no. And that was devastating. So, you know, there were reasons why. It was like after hours. She was still there, but she just didn't want me there. But that came to me as a shock. It was very stressful because, you know, I don't know about you guys, but I have this idea deep in my mind, like people are supposed to be happy that I want to paint their property, right? But that was a lesson for me to learn that nope, not everybody's happy. The reason why I'm telling you this story is that, like, reaching out to people with this potential of being refused is painful. So I'll keep listening. I will give you more tricks on how to handle this. So if you're like me and you don't want to reach out to anybody, you can search on Instagram and save it in your saved folder. Search for a specific keyword. For example, I'm painting a very special citrus, an orange or a lime. So I will look for photos, save them in my folder. Nobody sees that folder, right? And I also try to look for non-professional photos. So those people probably wouldn't mind, you know, they wouldn't care. Number 11. The next thing I want to talk about is plagiarizing things other than designs themselves. So it happens to me sometimes that people borrow my Instagram description and phrases I use in my painting reels or YouTube videos. I feel a little bit paranoid that I'm noticing this and talking about this. But the thing is, I'm particular about my words because I had to learn English as a foreign language, and also as a non-native speaker, sometimes I say something, you know, I know the rules, but when you're speaking a foreign language, your brain works differently. And sometimes I say it and then I'm like, man, I said it wrong, you know. So I often notice my grammar mistakes later on, and I often have to edit my copy or my text. And for example, there's a phrase that I've been saying wrong and thinking to myself, oh, I should have used a different verb tense. But then I hear another creator, a native English speaker, repeat my phrases word to word. I'm like, well, I guess I shouldn't have worried after all. I guess I'm fine with that. Or that Instagram description that I mentioned. Like, why couldn't the person have come up with their own text? She's a native speaker. These things should be easy for her. Please have mercy for, you know, English learners. So please don't take other people's text. Come up with your own. I think this is a totally legitimate way of using ChatGPT, the AI, for writing. You can tweak the text later to make it more organic, but it's better than taking someone else's creation. So these are all my recommendations, but we are not done yet. I also have a video on how to protect your designs from being stolen. There are some technical things you can do, you know, there are some emotional aspects, but I kind of made that video, it was a part of a bigger video, and if you would like me to elaborate more on this complicated topic, I can make a proper video about it. Please let me know in the comments. But I actually noticed that the video about stolen designs has very low views because I think people don't want to deal with this negativity. Trust me, I don't want either. So let's hope it just doesn't happen to us. I don't know if it makes you any happier, but I guess if your design got stolen, it indicates that the design is trendy and popular. The perks of creating niche designs is they get stolen less because people just don't get them. You know, if you have a Santa Claus in a sleigh, thumbs up, right? If you have sloths in hot air balloons, it's questionable for people, right? But niche and weird designs sell less for exactly the same reason, you know. So I promise to tell you about a shameful episode in my career. This video wouldn't be complete without it. So I got banned on one of the microstock websites for copyright infringement. I've kept silent about this episode for several years. I was embarrassed. Now I feel strong enough to share it. It's a perk for those people who watch my videos until the end. So how did it happen? Of course, I didn't intend to break any rules, but at the same time, I cannot say that it was completely unconscious. And that's the reason I'm sharing, because I was following this strange broken logic. I was justifying it to myself, whatever I was doing. So I created a pattern with animals in vector, and they were a little bit harder to draw. You know, animals can be tricky, they have a lot of legs and stuff. So I found some photos in blissful oblivion. You know, I put them in Illustrator and drew on top. I traced them. I didn't auto trace them, but I traced on top. My logic was, one, that there are so many designs in this platform. Who cares about me? Who's gonna notice? Who's gonna investigate? Trust me, guys, they will investigate. They probably use AI for it now. I think that was like 3 or 4 years ago, and they were already, I think, using some kind of AI. And the second part of my logic was, you know, you still have to have skills to draw on top. Like, tracing is not easy either, you know. So I kind of also made some original artwork, right? Delusional. So those designs were for sale for like 1 year. And then the Microstock reached out to me saying like, hey, can you provide your reference materials? I was like, well, what do they want from me? Okay, I'm like, obviously I didn't have any reference. I mean, my reference materials were stolen. The funniest part is that the photo was from their website, but I didn't even pay attention. I guess that's how they found out. I mean, apparently there is somebody, you know, doing this research and look into it. So they kept sending me messages like, hey, can you provide the references? Of course, I couldn't give them the reference because I could smell now that I was in trouble, you know. So I went on a forum on like a Reddit, something like that, and, you know, asked people. I didn't even ask, I like searched, what do you do when they ask for references? Because sometimes you don't have references, even if you are creating original artwork. If you are drawing in Illustrator, you know, you don't have reference photos, reference sketches. If you are using a paper sketchbook, right, you will have those. But if you are drawing digitally, nothing, right? So I sent it to them. There was like a week of silence, and then they dug up more of my designs done in a similar manner. There were like some household objects, some flowers, and they started sending me that side-to-side comparison, and you could see that freaking animal that I copied, you know. In the end, it ended badly, you know. They were like, we're banning you from the platform. They were kind of rude, you know. I was like, I'm so sorry. I tried to apologize. I'm a neurotic, you know. I wouldn't do this on purpose. I wouldn't, you know, get into a conflict like this. Like I'm saying, it was my broken logic of thinking, like, I'm not doing anything wrong, right? But I was doing something wrong, actually. So I tried to apologize and said, can you please forgive me? You know, I actually wasn't even working in that style at the time. I moved on. I didn't trace anything. I started drawing with markers and then scanning it and vectorizing it, but they just wouldn't listen. Another funniest part is that I actually didn't like those designs at all, because at the time I was kind of depressed. It was a difficult moment. It was the beginning of the end, the beginning of like me hating my in-house job and starting to look into other things. So what I'm saying is, if you don't put your heart in something, it shows, and in the end it might bite you like it did bite me. So in the end they banned me from the platform. And, you know, I've read about people, it happens to people. You can actually get banned even if you didn't do anything wrong. That blog that I mentioned about, you know, vector artwork, the girl was talking about a case where someone copied the design but pointed at the original creator and said that like they had copied my design. Crazy, right? But that could also happen, and you can get banned. And imagine if you have 20,000 designs in your portfolio. So people then re-register with a different email or different account. But I chose not to do it because, you know, Honestly, I wasn't making a lot of money on that platform, and their interface is super clunky, and I didn't like it anyways. And also the way they treated me, you know, I made a mistake and I admitted it, but they were like super rude and just banned me. I'm like, okay, I'll take my talents elsewhere, right? So that's my story. I want it to be a lesson to us all. Please don't copy other people's designs, don't trace other people's photos. A very long video today. How do you feel about long videos? Please let me know. If you enjoyed this, if you enjoyed my sincerity, please consider liking this video and supporting me with Buy Me a Coffee. You can make a one-time donation without registering, and don't forget to subscribe. That's the minimum I expect from you. Remember, patterns are everywhere, and so is copyright infringement. Hi, it's me. You know, I love talking about my shirts, not because I'm a narcissist, but because they are textiles. And I wanted to show you this one. First of all, the print is absolutely amazing, right? Beautiful, Egyptian inspired. But look at this. The label has the artist's name. How cool is that? Congratulations, Danielle. In the world where textile designs are often not respected and recognized, this is a big deal. Isn't it a textile design dream?